Welcome to Carl's Corner. Today, Anthony and I are going to be talking about the first week and a half or so of MLB baseball. Go over who's performing well, who's slipping below expectations, and who's been playing out of this world for the first week and a half. And let's see if they can keep it up. Anthony, you got anything to say before we jump right into it?
No, it's just a fun time of the year for the baseball season because a weekend you can't really take a whole lot away from a week of baseball, but it's just fun to see how teams are starting to stack up.
Oh, yeah. Well, with that, let's jump right into our Minnesota Twins.
Oh, absolutely.
Slow start to the season. Not looking phenomenal. Correa did not look great, but he beat out an infield single today, forced a bad throw.
Hey, they keep telling me on the Bally's broadcast that he's hitting the ball really well and just getting unlucky, and they would never lie to us on Bally Sports North.
They would not. It's actually FanDuel Sports North.
Oh, FanDuel Sports North? Oh yeah, that's right. Didn't Bally's go under? Whatever it is, on the Twins propaganda network, they wouldn't lie to us at all.
No, they would not. Pablo Lopez is looking pretty solid. He's 1-1 with a 2.25 ERA through 12 innings so far. But if he could return to form from 2023, him and Ryan and Ober at the top of the rotation, it's a pretty solid three generally.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Pablo, you kind of just have to. He's a lot like Aaron Nola in that he's undoubtedly a talented, really good pitcher, but you just know he's going to have X amount of starts a year where he gets blown up. So you kind of have to just look at the underlying numbers, the expected ERA. Because last year it was better. I don't know how much stock you put into FIP, the fielding independent pitching, but according to FIP last year, he was at a 3.65 ERA, expected ERA, and that was right in line with the 3.66 that he had in 2023. And this year, it's through a couple starts, the FIP is at 4. I think Pablo's going to be fine. He's the ace of your staff for a reason because he's the steadiest arm out there, whereas Ryan definitely has higher highs and Bailey Ober can go on some hot stretches. He's the guy you send out there. He sets the tone for your rotation. So
yeah, especially with the strikeout numbers that we know he can put up.
Oh yeah,
he can very easily go out there and get 7 strikeouts or not 7 innings pitched with 12 strikeouts and just look really nice. But some days it doesn't look that nice.
He possesses elite strikeout potential. I don't think we realized just how ridiculous the 234 strikeouts he had in 2023 were. That's Johan Santana numbers. That's prime Tim Lincecum numbers.
Yeah,
he was one of the more underrated pitchers in 2023.
Yeah, that was actually the most strikeouts since for a Twin since Johan. Because our rotations used to be headlined by Ricky Nolasco and the likes.
Nick Blackburn, Mike Pelfrey. We all know the days.
Yeah.
Phil Hughes was good for a year.
Yeah. Harrison Bader is tied for 3rd in the AL in home runs right now.
For my money, the MVP of the Twins so far is Harrison Bader.
Yeah, that's been that sneaky pickup.
Yeah, I think long term he's going to regress back to the means, but he's the type of guy where he's very quickly going to become a fan favorite if he can continue to get some big hits. And it's not the home runs are nice, but it's also when he hits the home runs. In the first game of the season, most Twins fans would agree. And when it gets going rough, or when the going gets rough, you kind of feel like they're dead in the water. So when he hit that big home run off Sonny Gray, you got a little life back. He hits the home run against the White Sox to kind of put that game out of reach when we needed it.
Yeah,
he's been fun to watch so far for sure, but long term, I'd imagine he probably goes back to the dozen home runs a year and the on base percentage under 300.
Yeah. More likely than not, that's what'll happen. But you can enjoy the hot start while it's here.
Yeah,
Um,
we all remember when Robbie Grossman had that hot month, his first month with the Twins, and we're like,
yeah,
is Robbie Grossman for real?
he
He's
was
not.
not.
No, he
Um,
was not.
my last note on the Twins here is that they should never allow Bailey Ober to pitch in the state of Missouri in April ever again after last year against the Royals and this year against the Cardinals.
I would say just don't allow Bailey to pitch in this state of Missouri, period.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Um, if you really wanted to sabotage the Royals season, just trade him Bailey Ober and he would spontaneously combust and lose them 20% of their games. For whatever reason, I mean, we all know the Royals have his number. If you look back at his entire career against them, it's an outlier. But I know you mentioned to me, this is something I was unaware of, but I guess he did have the flu in his first game and he lost like 10 pounds or something, um, which would make sense because his velocity was down. I think he was averaging 89 in the first start I think last year he averaged 92.
Oh,
He looked fine today, but I wouldn't worry about him long term.
actually, speaking of 89, the one of our losses to the White Sox, we allowed Martin Perez to throw 6 no-hit innings on us, and not one of his pitches exceeded 89 miles an hour in that 6 innings.
Martin Perez is an ace, whether or not you want to admit it. Martin Perez. That's one of my one of my fantasy baseball teams is called Sox Ace Martin Perez, just because an inside joke between me and one of my buddies is how somehow, even though he's the worst qualified starting pitcher basically every year, he continues to get work because he can pitch
Okay.
150 innings. But it's consistently the lowest quality 150 innings you're going to get from anyone in baseball right now.
Terrible. Speaking of terrible, you want to talk about the Atlanta Braves?
I do not, but we can. uh, wow, basically everything that could go wrong for the Braves over the first week did go wrong. Uh, I am going to chalk up part of their 0-7 start to the fact that they played the Padres, who were 7-0 before facing the Cubs this weekend, and the Dodgers, who were 8-0 until yesterday.
Yeah.
Um, wow, yeah, the bats were or the offense was lethargic. They just really couldn't get anything going outside of one good start from Chris Sale, and both of Spencer Schwellenbach's starts. They just haven't really been able to get anything going. And even though it's early in the year, you do have to wonder if you're 0-7, what does that really do to you if you're trying to make the playoffs? Because I know, as you noted here, no team that's 0-7 has ever, or no team to start 0-7 has ever made the playoffs. And
Yep.
this is a team that is getting Strider back and Acuna back fairly soon. So brighter days are ahead. But if you remember 2016, when the Twins started out 0-9, at that point, your expectations for the season essentially become, can we get back to 500 by the All-Star break? And when
Yeah.
you're in that big of a hole, it really changes your outlook on the season. You get desperate and make decisions that you wouldn't otherwise make, like
Yeah.
bringing in Iglesias in the 8th inning to try and get the save against the Dodgers, um,
Yeah.
which was quickly ruined by Muncy and later Otani with that walk-off home run. But
Yep.
yeah, I think long term they're going to be fine. They have too many good players to not win 90 games and make the playoffs at the very least as a wild card team, but yeah, it's been ugly early on.
Yeah. Their one saving grace is going to be Strider and Acuna coming back. This is something that Minnesota sports fans hear all the time because our players are constantly injured going through the trade deadline. In the middle of August, when these guys come back for us, the broadcasters are always like, "Oh, you didn't need to make any moves at the deadline because you got Buxton coming back," and Acuna and Strider are actually like very solid additions onto a good roster already.
Oh
So
yeah.
That's the one saving grace. It's like they're going to make a trade here in a month and give up nothing to get 2 All-Stars.
Yeah.
So they do have that going for them, but at the moment, they need the fans in the stands getting real loud, get the team hyped up a
We
little
need the
bit.
tomahawk chop, though. Ooh.
Absolutely.
Remember that?
Oh,
Do they
oh
still
yeah.
do that?
Yes, they do.
It's
Yes, they do.
kind of great.
It is. Um, let's segue to the Dodgers. They are 9-1. That's a little ridiculous in my book. I don't think that should be allowed.
They have underachieved.
Yep. Not
Everyone
undefeated.
thought they'd be 10-0 at this point. So 162-0 is officially ruined.
Yep.
161-1 is still mathematically in play, but this team is legitimately going to break the Mariners, what is it, 119 games in 2001, right?
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like that. I
If you
don't
want
see
to make
how. What
if
were you
you
going
want
to
to make
say?
an ungodly amount of money, just bet the Dodgers money line every night and hope for the best. You'd be 9-1 right now if you did that.
Just bet the Dodgers. Bet $100 on the Dodgers to win every single night,
Yeah.
and you'll make money. It's like betting against the Jets. It just works over the course of a season.
Yeah.
Uh, they don't really have any weak spots in the lineup. You lead off Otani, which is already an embarrassment of riches. Uh,
Yeah.
but you have Tommy Edman, who has 5 home runs right now. Tommy Edman, who hits like 10 a year. They don't even need Freddie Freeman. He's hurt right now with the re-aggravating the ankle injury. And from what I understand, they're essentially just shutting him down because they need him for the stretch run and they want him to be healthy come the second half of the season. But they don't need him because you got Michael Conforto, who you signed off the street for basically nothing. And he's swinging a hot bat. He looks a lot like the Mets version of Michael Conforto prior to injuries.
Mm-hmm.
You got Will Smith, who for some reason always hits 400 in the first month of the season. I feel like he's the hottest hitter out of the gate every single year.
Yep.
Mookie Betts, he's loses 20 pounds with the flu, no problem apparently. Now he just looks like the Red Sox version of Mookie Betts, where he's just slapping the ball all around and playing Gold Glove defense at shortstop, I guess, which shouldn't be a thing. Because when guys turn 30, they usually get moved off of shortstop. If you're Mookie Betts, they're like, okay, we're going to take you from right field and you're going to play shortstop for the first time in your life. And you're going to be above average at it because nothing makes any sense.
They got
It's
something water
a
out
good
there.
team. They're
Yeah.
they're going to win like 125 games. If
Yeah.
the worst starting pitcher in your rotation right now is Blake Snell of 2 Cy Young awards. So if you
Must
can
be
just live with his bad starts every now and then.
must be nice. Must be nice.
Must be nice. Are you referring to rolling out Chris Paddock to get rocked every 5th day?
I enjoy that.
The Chris Paddock experience. I like that they still call him the sheriff. They're like, the sheriff takes the mound
Yeah.
next.
He's got his hat.
It's like,
Got
do
his
we
cowboy.
really need to give him a nickname? He's one of the worst qualified starting pitchers, right up there with Martin Perez.
Yeah. Well, you want to talk about the AL East?
Yeah, let's move to the East. Start with the Blue Jays, 5-3. That's a team that a lot of people don't expect much of because they've slowly regressed each year. But the
Yeah.
key for them right now is going to be getting contributions from Vladdy and Bichette, and both of them look healthy. Vladdy's starting a little slow, but I fully expect him to return to his 2024 form. The big shock in their lineup right now is the fact that Andres Jimenez has kind of turned back the clock to his 2022 version. He's batting cleanup for them.
Oh.
Andres Jimenez, who was traded from the Guardians because he couldn't hit, and they wanted to make room for first overall pick Travis Bazzana. That guy, they basically dumped him, and he has 3 home runs. He's batting cleanup for the Blue Jays, and he looks like a stud. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to say about the Blue Jays. I think they're going to be better than a lot of people expect, but I still don't think they're a playoff team. If they want to be
No,
a playoff team, we're going to need Bichette
100%.
and Vladdy to return to that 2021 form.
Yeah, they have just such a big hill to climb, it being in that division. Like, yeah, you can win 90 games and probably be a wild card, but you're going to be third in the division. You're going to get beat up on. So
Yeah.
I
My
have
dog
watched
agrees if you can hear him barking in the background.
caught a little bit of it. I haven't caught a single pitch of Blue Jays baseball this year, so I don't have much to add on them.
Yeah. I mean, Anthony Santander, who I thought was Anthony Santander until I heard someone announce his name. I don't. He's not hitting 40 home runs again. He's probably hitting 25 to 30, but he's still a 240 hitter. So I don't really like that addition for them. But I mean, they need someone in the middle of that lineup to smack the ball around behind Bichette, Vladdy, Jimenez.
Yeah,
It'll be an interesting team to watch, but yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to say about the Blue Jays.
they could get frisky.
The Yankees, on the other hand,
yeah, they got a lot going on up there.
The torpedo bat mania. This is something I never understood about baseball. They get this torpedo bat, they hit a bunch of home runs with it, and rather than the other teams just going, "Oh wow, they have this bat and they're hitting a lot of home runs with it. Let's use the bat too." The other teams go to the league and say, "Let's get this thing banned."
Yeah,
Why wouldn't you just use the bat yourself?
I don't. I'd like to see how I'd like to see a control variable with the bat. Like, let the Yankees use it all throughout their lineup, and don't let the Dodgers use it all throughout their lineup, and see what the difference is over the course of a year. Because does it actually do that much? Like, maybe, maybe not.
The
But
Brewers also played like absolute crap in that first series, and then went to play the Royals, and they got crushed by the Royals in the first game. So there's a chance that the Brewers were just playing horrible baseball. Because
there's definitely that. That's part of the component there.
Other than Judge, the other bats are kind of coming back down to earth. Judge, I think, 7 games, 6 homers, 17 RBIs. Like it's video game numbers.
He's not even using a torpedo bat though. Like, that's just.
Oh, he's not.
No.
I thought he probably doesn't need one, but
yeah, that's actually what he said.
Chisholm.
They asked him about it in an interview, and he was like, "I hit 60 last year with that bat. Like, why would I change that?" So
fair enough, Aaron. Fair enough. But yeah. I know Chisholm was one of the guys they were big on the torpedo bat, and he got off to a hot start. Him and Volpe both hit 4 homers, but Chisholm's kind of come back down to earth too. So
Volpe's home runs have been so fake. Have you seen the videos of any of them?
Oh yeah. Other than the one, they're all. I saw the opposite field one that would have only gone out in one ballpark.
Yeah, and then he had one yesterday to the pull side, into right, where like he's sprinting around the bases, like looking all confused for the ball because he hit it 310 feet.
It's a fly out at
it's a fly out
MLB parks.
Yeah.
Well, that's the magic of Yankee Stadium is
magic.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how crappy you are. If you can hit a ball to right field in the air, you're hitting 20 home runs. Just ask Brett Gardner. He made an entire career off of hitting line drives into the right field bleachers.
Yeah. But, shout out Brett Gardner. Hope everything's okay with him with that family
situation. I heard about that. That was
very
rough.
Well, on a lighter note, let's talk about the Rays.
I thought you were going to say on a similar note, let's talk about the Marlins.
No.
The Rays. It's just a classic Rays season. They have no expectations coming in, and they're still probably going to win 85 games. And they've looked like that to start. They got their hands tied behind their backs. I don't know if you remember Josh Lowe's 2023, but he was electric for them, and he's already hurt. which is unfortunate because he's kind of had the Byron Buxton injury-prone gene.
That's
Shane
not,
McClanahan's going to miss time too, so they're starting without two of their better players, but
yeah.
a lot of their season is going to come down to how these unproven, highly touted, well, technically not prospects anymore, perform. Junior Caminero, he hit 300 his first week. The power has not really caught up to him, but he's a guy, he looks the part. He continues to hit the ball hard. So I imagine he's going to fill in nicely in the middle of that lineup. A lot of people expect him to jump into that Machado Bregman third baseman class where he's just a solidified professional all-star third baseman for the next decade plus.
Yeah.
And then filling in for Shanahan, they have a lot of nice arms. Shane Baz, he's the guy. Do you remember him? He was the guy who got sent back in the Chris Archer trade.
Yeah.
He's got a lively arm. So his first outing, his problem is he just hasn't been able to pitch. He's been injured to hell and back, but he pitched 6 innings of scoreless ball and he struck out 10. So if he can continue to be that type of pitcher, they're going to miss Shane McClanahan a hell of a lot less. I like a lot about the Rays. I just don't think they have a lot of the firepower to keep up with the rest of the teams in this division.
Yeah, nor do I. With them playing at the Yankees spring training facility, do they have the same dimensions as Yankee Stadium?
I
'Cause I
don't
know
think they have the same dimensions, but it's short porches. They're similar dimensions, specifically in right field.
I know the Red Sox have almost like a 1-for-1 copy of Fenway that they play at.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that seems like something the Yankees would do.
It's going to be a very homer-friendly park. So
yeah,
well, that hurts losing Josh Lowe, left-handed bat. He was a sneaky guy to hit 30 home runs if he can just lift the ball to right. But
yeah, I guess the humidity when it starts to turn to June, July, August down there will probably tamp that down a little bit. But they could have a couple sneaky 30 home run guys if that's the case.
Who are you thinking? Off the record, who's hitting 30 home runs?
I couldn't tell you one person in their lineup aside from Junior Caminero.
Well, the other Lowe, Brandon Lowe, if he can stay healthy, he'll hit 30.
Do they have both Lows now?
Yeah, they got both of them.
Collect them all.
His biggest problem is just it's the Byron Buxton thing. He's only going to play 100 games, but he's going to play 100 games and he's going to hit 20 to 25 home runs and he's going to be a big bat in that lineup. So I would imagine 85 wins still if I had to predict.
Yeah.
They'll hang around and they'll wait for one of these other teams to drop off, but
yeah,
it's unlikely that it happens.
I would agree.
Loosely.
Now, don't know much
about a team that I judged far too harshly was the Red Sox. And coming into the season, I didn't have a lot of faith in the Red Sox just because it sounded like they were going to be relying on a lot of rookies. They were looking for key contributions from Christian Campbell and Marcelo Mayer and Roman Anthony. But just first week of the season, Christian Campbell's the only one of those rookies who breaks camp with the team. He hits 400 with a couple home runs and he's walking. So he picks up right where he left off last year at AAA. They extend him for 8 years and $60 million, which is going to be one of the most valuable contracts over the next decade.
Yeah, that'll probably look like the Acuna deal.
Yeah, like it's going to be one of the most team-friendly deals in baseball. Because they look good. Bregman looks like he was born to hit at Fenway Park. If he can just lift the ball. He had a lot of success with the Crawford box in Houston, and it's just going to be that on steroids in Boston.
Yeah.
Devers, it was uncomfortable during the first week when Devers was over 19 with 15 strikeouts, but the DH thing is very real. You remember a few years ago when they made Buxton DH and he just couldn't hit.
Yeah.
Some guys just struggle with it. I kind of thought it was stupid at first, but
there's certain gamers that just like actually need to be in the field, and it's indescribable. Like when they're not in the field between at bats, it's just something with their head.
No, it just completely takes you out of the game. And it's clear that
Yeah.
Devers was experiencing some of that. But you
Yeah.
look at Yordan Alvarez, his OPS is 100 points higher when he plays left field than when he DHs. So it's, for a lot of guys, it's not just, hey, you're going to be David Ortiz or Nelson Cruz. You're just going to hit every day, and you're going to hit 300 and hit 40 homers. It's, for a lot of guys, it takes a bit of a transition. And once Devers gets it down, I think he's going to be one of the best DHs in baseball. But
yeah,
through all those struggles,
should they abolish the DH?
And what?
Should they abolish the DH?
Abolish the DH?
Bring back pitchers hitting, baby.
Bring back pitchers hitting.
Just because
Bartolo is retired, so I'm not in favor of that because we wouldn't get to see him hit anymore. But
oh god,
I think the universal DH is one of the best things that baseball's done in the last decade, right next to the pitch clock.
It definitely is. I'm being facetious.
There's no reason that we need to see some of these guys hitting. Like there's no reason.
I remember one year. So Lincecum, he threw right, but he hit left.
Yeah.
So he had his pitching elbow just exposed. And one year he got like hit just either clean on the bicep or forearm with a pitch. And he was out for like a month because he got hit on the forearm of his pitching. And it's like, why would you do that to yourself as a pitcher? Why would you not hit right if you throw right?
Yeah, it's like you're not going to get it. You're not going to get a hit anyway. You get the Barry Bonds arm guard, where it's just hockey gear on your arm.
Yeah, that's bigger than hockey gear. The Barry Bonds one was legitimately bigger than hockey gear.
Someone did there's a breakdown on YouTube. I can't remember what it's called or who did it, but it's like how much higher was Barry Bonds' on base percentage solely because of his arm guard, and it took into account every time the arm guard was hit, and he got a substantial amount of OBP from it. So
some people, man.
The Red Sox, they look legit. I thought they were maybe a year ahead, but if there's a team, I thought it would be Yankees and Orioles up at the top, and we'll talk about the Orioles in a second, but the Red Sox might be legit, just from what I've seen in the first week. It looks like it's a sustainable formula for them. They're not going to be relying on the rookies. They're going to get it done without the rookies. They're probably going to make another trade at some point here to get a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
If Crochet can stay healthy, if they can get anything out of Walker Buehler, this team's going to win 90 games and they're going to get into the playoffs. If they get anything from Roman Anthony or Marcelo Mayer, that's just icing on the cake. At this point, they might leverage Marcelo Mayer to go out and get someone like Sandy Alcantara, who we'll talk about in a little bit here. But if I was a Red Sox fan, I'd feel very good about what I'm seeing through 1 week.
Yeah.
The Orioles, on the other hand, are another story. They're hanging on for dear life, man. That rotation is weak. Without Grayson Rodriguez, who I don't think you can even rely on to come back at this point because he has not proven to anyone that he can pitch a full season. And when he does pitch, that he can be anything other than a number 2 right now. But your rotation, it's Zach Eflin, Charlie Morton, Dean Kramer, Cade Pavich, and Sugano, who they signed from Japan, 35 years old. You're not winning 90 games with that rotation. I'm sorry. Like Gunnar returned today, so they finally got him back after missing the first week. But if you're rolling out those 5, you're in trouble.
Charlie Morton was born in 1983.
Charlie Morton he's in his 40s.
Yeah, he's 41, turning 42 in November.
Charlie Morton, great pitcher. 5 years ago. Yeah. World Series winning pitcher, good playoff performer. He's not the same pitcher. I did watch him pitch. I watched him pitch against the Blue Jays, and he's not the same guy. He looks old.
Yeah,
He's lost some control. He's lost some velocity. The curve still drops, but you're not getting 150 innings of him at a number 2 or probably even a number 3 starter at this point. And
no,
I like Zach Eflin. I'm big on Zach Eflin. I own a lot of fantasy shares of Zach Eflin, but he's another guy. He's only done it at a high level for 1 year. Outside of that 1 year, he's a number 3. The strikeouts
yeah,
are not there. You can't send him out in game 1 against anyone. Now, who else would he face in a potential game 1? If he goes out in the Royals, if it's Cole Reagans against Zach Eflin, like I think it was in the playoffs last year, you're losing
yeah,
that game. Like they lost it in the playoffs last year, and they're losing it again this year.
yeah,
And I don't care. The Adley Rushman and Jackson Holiday are showing some life here. Adley with that historically bad second half. A lot of people thought he might be injured. He looks good to start the year. Jackson Holiday looks way more comfortable. He looks a lot more like that 300, 400, 500 slash line AAA player we saw a couple years ago.
yeah.
But it's not going to matter if you continue to roll out slappies.
Slappies. Oh
That's what it
man,
is. This rotation would make the Twins of the 2010s blush.
it would. The poll ads would love this.
The cost controlled rotation, the poll ads, they'd just be licking their chops. Just oh yeah, we're gonna show it. We're gonna show them. We're gonna roll out Brian Dunsing and Randy Dobnak at Yankee Stadium. That'll work.
Will, dude, come on, have some faith.
Uber driver.
We got the Dalai Lama. He'll figure it out.
I'm gonna have to use that one. I call him Doc Rock.
Doc Rock, that's a good one too.
Yeah, they right now I think the Orioles are probably a third place team, and I
Yeah.
don't see them making the playoffs. They need to go out and make a trade. You need to go get. They've shown that they will trade with the Marlins. They need to go get Sandy Alcantara. You
Any
need
team
to,
that's competing should probably be calling the Marlins in about a month here about Sandy.
yeah.
'Cause
29 teams. You wouldn't be doing your due diligence if you didn't call the Marlins, but you
no.
still have an embarrassment of riches in your farm system. You let Corbin Burns walk for nothing, but you've shown that you're willing to go out and trade for a guy like that.
Yep.
Uh, you got 2 guys who are going to be corner infielders. You got Kobe Mayo and you got Samuel Basayo. They're both probably first basemen because you got Jordan Westberg at third, you got Gunnar at short, and you got Holiday at second. So you only got one spot for those guys. So go to the Marlins, offer one of them up, say, which one do you like better? We want Sandy. And then get Sandy and extend him for 5 years and try to open this thing up a little bit.
Yeah.
I get that the Orioles owner is kind of a cheapskate. Not without reason. They want to be the antithesis to the Yankees and Dodgers. They want to show that you can build a winning team with a smaller payroll, a middle market team. But
Yeah.
unless you want to suck for 5 consecutive years like they did only a few years ago, you gotta
Yeah.
make some moves to win now. Their window is open and they need to go for it.
Yeah, you do need to spend money in baseball. And it just shows with these teams that don't, like,
Twins.
you're picked at the top of the draft every year.
And not
Uh,
even necessarily anymore because now they have a draft lottery. So you're not even guaranteed to get the first pick.
yeah.
The White Sox are
Shit.
picking like 10th after losing the most games in MLB history.
Yeah. Serves them right.
Serves them right. Speaking of the White Sox, how about them Whiteys? That performance against the Twins, the 9-0 win, Martin Perez. Fun fact
Yeah.
is that they already have as many wins as they had in the entire month of April last year at 2-6. So I don't think there's a whole lot to talk about with the Whiteys, but
No. They got to Paddock. Good job.
just give them a round of applause. Twins pulling your
Yeah.
starters in the 4th inning.
I
I
mean,
think they're due for
they need it.
positive regression almost, just because they can't get any worse than last year.
Yeah.
I guess I'll be a Scottish optimist and say it can always get worse.
It can always
They
get
might
worse.
win 50 games. You think 50? You think they can win 50?
I think they can definitely knock on the door of 50. I don't
We'll
know if
see
they'll
if they can get Colson Montgomery to learn how to hit a baseball so they can call him up to play shortstop. They might win some games.
Yeah.
In classic White Sox fashion, they have the number 9 prospect in all of baseball last year, and they're just destroying him. Hit 200 last year in a full season at AAA, struck out 30+% of the time. They didn't call him up for September or anything, and now he's right back in the minors to start this year.
Terrible.
He's a guy I owned him in a lot of my dynasty leagues, and I've kind of cut bait. Like the White Sox, they're just poison. They will destroy everything and anything.
Yeah. Now,
the opposite of the White Sox is the Guardians, the Cleveland baseball team. The only reason they don't have a winning record right now is because they ran into a red-hot Padres team. That they got smoked by the Padres, and I think 28 other teams that play the Padres in the first week of the season are also getting smoked.
Yeah.
It's the exact same Guardians team that it's been every year for the last decade. The hitting is kind of underwhelming, but they're gonna throw one guy who you really like out there and 4 starters you've never heard of, and they're gonna be one of the best rotations in baseball. They're gonna win 90 games. They're probably gonna win the division, and they're gonna exit early in the playoffs. That's the story of the Guardians. Speaking of teams that need to spend a little money.
Speaking of teams that need to spend some money.
Well, you get Jose Ramirez. He takes one of the most team-friendly contracts in baseball, right next to Acuna, right next to Ozzie Albies, to be in Cleveland, and then you don't supplement him with anything.
Yeah.
Trading away Francisco Lindor is one of the stupidest decisions any franchise could possibly make.
Yeah, remember that grand slam in the playoffs he hit?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wait, the only player with less WAR than Judge and Ohtani the last couple, or the only player, the Judge and Ohtani are the only 2 players that have more WAR over the last 3 seasons than Francisco Lindor. He's probably the best defensive shortstop in baseball. He's a 30-30 guy.
Yeah.
You just let him walk.
And on top of that, he's a sellable personality.
Oh yeah.
Like he's not Mike Trout. Like he's very boisterous. He's out there and people love it. Like he sells jerseys, he sells t-shirts. You can put him on the cover of anything and people will show up to see it. And
locker room guy, ultimate locker room guy.
Yeah, except he's good. Usually you call someone a locker room guy if they're bad.
The locker room guy. Who is our locker room guy? Was it Jake Cave? Everyone just loves Jake Cave.
Yeah, Jake Cave, Kyle Farmer.
We got to get Jake Cave. We got to trade Luis Heel for Jake Cave.
Yeah.
Which is a thing that happened.
It did. Have they extended Emmanuel Clase? Do they have him locked up long term?
Nope. No, they don't.
Classic.
So look for him to be the next guy traded.
Yeah, probably.
But it won't matter. They have such a good bullpen.
Do you have any thoughts on the Royals? Like, what's Bobby Witt up to right now?
He's kind of off to a slow start. I think it was today, actually, he hit his first home run. My biggest issue with the Royals is they have no identity outside of Bobby Witt. He is the team. He was quite literally a 10 WAR player last year. And if you take him off the field, they are easily 10 wins worse than when he plays. You take him out of that lineup, it's completely different. Whereas the Twins, they lose Correa, Buxton, Royce Lewis. Not that those guys are on the same level as Bobby Witt, but a lot of these teams, you lose your star player, and it's like, all right, it's going to be rough, but we'll figure it out. If the Royals lose Bobby Witt, the season's over. There's nothing they can do.
No, except get Alcantara. that can be something.
Yeah, they can make the rotation even better. I do like the rotation.
This just in. Every team in baseball is in for Alcantara. Breaking news.
Except for the Rockies, because they don't want to have to pay him.
And
he would deny. Yeah, there's no reason in getting a pitcher period.
There.
Yeah, the rotation's good. Reagan's he looks a little human to start the year. Something that was kind of underreported was no one in baseball, or no starting pitcher in baseball, had a sharper decline on fastball velo from April to September than Cole Reagan's did. Now he's got some good secondary stuff and he's got the control, so he still made it work. But that's something to keep an eye on because his velocity is down again this year.
Okay.
He's sitting 95, 96, which is good. It's fine, but he was getting close to 100 at the beginning of last year.
Yeah.
But outside of him, Michael Wacha, he's a good B starting pitcher. Who's the guy? They had some guy who was like a reliever for a decade, and all of a sudden he becomes one of the better starting pitchers in baseball last year.
Let's see.
I'm just blanking on his name, but
Was it Lugo?
Yeah, Seth Lugo.
Yeah.
He's going to be fine. I don't foresee injury issues with him because he's not a flamethrower. He just doesn't profile as someone who's going to have an issue with his arm. But yeah, the team's going to be good. They got a good bullpen. You know, Salvador Perez is still doing it. He's kind of transitioning more to a first base DH type of role. But yeah, without Bobby Witt, the team's going to struggle to win 80 games. With him, they're going to win 85 plus, and they're going to be in the mix. But as a Twins fan, I'm not particularly threatened by the Royals through 1 week here.
No, nor am I.
A team that does kind of scare. Yeah, that's what I was about to get to. The Tigers are a team that scares me.
Yeah.
They were kind of a year ahead of schedule last year, and they showed that they have some life. They had one of the better second halves in baseball, coinciding with the Twins' collapse. But they're 4-4 right. I believe they're 4-4 right now. They got swept. They got swept by the Dodgers, but they played the Dodgers about as well as you can. They were in all 3 of those games, and they just kind of flamed out and couldn't finish the job. But they look like a division winner. They look like a playoff team.
Yeah.
If put your money down on the Tigers.
Yeah. Part of getting swept by the Dodgers is you have to hang with that video game roster for 27 innings, 9 innings each day. And
yeah,
it's like you can hang with them through the 7th, and then all of a sudden they have 7 all-stars with their last 9 outs, and something's going to happen.
Well, one of the more heartbreaking losses you're going to see this year was the game with Mookie Betts' walk-off home run, where they basically had the Dodgers dead to rights.
Oh, yeah.
And then they just absolutely derp their way to an improbable comeback victory.
Yeah.
A big part of that, Spencer Torkelson, he looks good.
Yeah.
This is the guy that we were promised.
Yeah.
He had that big 4-walk opening day, but he's hitting 300 through a week. He's walking. He's got a couple home runs. For me, it's not the results. It's the process. He finally looks comfortable at the plate. This is a guy who, for the first couple years, even when he hit the 30 home runs, he did most of his damage over 2 months. He has not looked fully comfortable at the plate. And for the first time in his career, he looks like he's figured it out. And it's not uncommon for a lot of baseball players, highly touted guys, to struggle when they first debut. You remember Byron Buxton trying to hit for his first couple years. For some of these guys,
he was healthy. The 1 year he was fully healthy all the way through, he couldn't hit because he was 20.
That's so true. But for some of these guys, it just takes a little longer. But once they figure it out, they just hit the ground running, and it coincides 25, 26, 27. JJ Bleday, who's another highly touted prospect who got traded to the Athletics. He's a similar guy where he was struggling to hit 200, and then last year hits 25 home runs and 40 doubles, and he's now their third hitter.
Yeah.
Some of these guys, it just takes a little longer, and then they figure it out, and Torkelson looks like he's figuring it out. Another guy who's figuring it out is Riley Green, who I don't know how familiar you are with his game, but
he's been so fun to watch this year.
He's quickly transcending into the next MLB superstar.
Yeah.
Like you're going to hear this guy's name alongside Mookie Betts and Gunnar Henderson. he's marketable. He's quickly becoming kind of that clubhouse leader. Like he is the guy who they rally around. If he can just stay healthy, because the injury bug has been what's killed him his first couple years. But
yeah,
I think he's only 23, 24. So yeah, the Tigers are going to be a problem.
They definitely could be.
Gooble's still good. Flaherty looks good. Most underrated pitcher in the American League right now, for my money, is Reese Olson. Reese Olson, he just screams. He's my Bailey Ober, like last year Bailey Ober, where I just think he's going to throw close to 200 innings and he's going to be really efficient with an ERA around 3.6, 3.7. And come fantasy drafts next year, he's going to be a guy who's drafted around pick 100. And you're going to say, where did that guy come from? Why didn't I hear anything about Reese Olson? And it's just because when he's healthy, he's just quietly gone out and shoved quality start after quality start.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Detroit, legit team. You know, it would be nice if the Twins put a team that could contend with them out there and didn't settle for mediocrity. But
yeah, what can you do? We don't write the checks.
Unfortunately, someone new will be writing the checks very soon.
Possibly.
Can't come soon enough. They just need to clean house. Another team has been who looks back, or I guess, well, the World Series winners from 2 years ago, the Rangers. They're off to a really good start. They look a lot closer to the World Series team than they do to last year's team.
Mm-hmm.
And last year was just a weird year. A lot of injuries. They were counting on Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter to be key contributors in that lineup. And when you expect big things from rookies, like I kind of brought up with the Red Sox, you're setting yourself up for failure. So, of course, when Evan Carter struggles and Wyatt Langford takes longer to acclimate to Major League Baseball, you're going to struggle. And that's kind of what happened to them. They were due for regression. But for my money, this is the best team in the American League for 2025. Adolis Garcia looks back. He wants to hit 50 home runs this year pretty publicly, and he looks like he might do it. He looks a lot closer to the 40 homer guy from a couple years ago than the 25 homer guy last year.
Yeah.
Wyatt Langford, he's arrived too. It took him like 2 or 3 months to hit his first home run last year, and he already has 2 in the first week. But he's a guy has hit everywhere along the line, and at some point he's going to get hot. You're going to look up at the American League WAR leaders, and you're going to see Wyatt Langford right there at the top with some of these other guys and say, oh, I didn't realize he was that good. Mm-hmm. And of course, you got Corey Seager, who's nursing a calf injury, but he's going to play 120 games and hit 30 home runs. So he's about as steady, smooth sailing as you can get.
Yeah, is he still a gold glove winner type player at short? Or
no, he's probably, and this is actually it's going to help his Hall of Fame case, is he's probably going to transition to first base in a couple years because he's not a plus defender at shortstop right now, but he's good enough where he doesn't derail you. So he's not going to put up any WAR at short or from a defensive standpoint, but he's not going to lose you WAR either. And then eventually he's going to move to first base and he's just going to preserve his career by 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
The only big injury they're dealing with right now is Josh Young is hurt again.
Uh-oh.
We keep hearing about Josh Young, like this is the guy, but he's got a case of Royce Lewis-itis, which is he just can't stay healthy. And he's starting the season on the IL again. So we'll see if he can come back. But the biggest piece for the Rangers is if Jacob deGrom can just pitch 120 innings. If he can just pitch 120 innings and be one of the best hitters in baseball, not hitters, best pitchers. If he can just be 120 innings, he's going to be one of the best pitchers in baseball. Like on a per start basis, per inning basis, he's still one of the most effective starters. His first start of the year, they're still kind of getting him stretched out. So he only went 5 innings, but he only threw like 70 pitches, no runs, 6 Ks.
Yeah.
They're going to kind of slow cook him along, and they're probably going to.
That's exactly.
I imagine he has a phantom DL stint in the middle of the season, where they shut a guy down where they're like, oh, he has elbow or like shoulder tightness or something.
Yeah, usually they do something. Yeah, usually they do something innocuous for a pitcher, like his calf is a little sore.
So it'll be
Go
It'll
home.
be the end of July, start of August, and he'll go on the 10-day IL.
Yeah.
And they'll say it's nothing to worry about. It's solely precautionary. And then he'll come back for September. And if he can be healthy into the playoffs, they are going to be dangerous. I like the Rangers a lot. I'd put, if I was a betting man, I'd put money on them to repeat. They have a pretty favorable line right now.
Yeah, they're a damn good team.
If my guy Evan Carter can just do literally anything, he's like my favorite prospect of the last decade. And of course, he comes up, rakes on the way to the World Series. He's batting third for them in the World Series. And then now chronic back issues, starts the year in the minors, might never play a full season.
Oh God.
So depressing.
Yeah. Well, you want to talk about another team with a rookie from his class? We were just talking about Evan Carter. He debuted the year he got drafted, right?
He was drafted out of high school, so it took a couple years.
Oh,
So he didn't debut quite as quickly as the star on the next team we're about to talk about here. But the Angels, they have a winning record right now. The Angels hype is real. Trout's healthy so far. He's played 7 games. They might not lose 100. I know you're a little more bullish on the Angels than I am, but for me,
I don't know any of their pitchers though. That's probably a problem.
well, they went out and spent money on Kikuchi, who's like your classic kind of B- C+ arm, but he's going to strike out a lot of guys. He's a much better fantasy pitcher than he is an actual pitcher, because when it comes down to it, pitching is just about run prevention, and he's not great at run prevention, but he strikes a lot of guys out. So if you're plugging him into a fantasy lineup, especially rotisserie formats, he's gonna do well for you.
Yeah.
He's got elite strikeout potential, but he's not a number one, and they need him to be a number one, because the rest of the guys they got, I'd have to look it up because I'm not 100% sure who their 5 starters are either. I know I think they transitioned Jose Soriano to be a starter. Oh gosh, that's rough. They got Kyle Hendricks in there. Kyle Hendricks is starting games for them.
Nice.
Yeah. I think this is probably a 100 loss team. They're a fun. They're kind of like the Athletics, where they're a kind of fun, frisky potential losing team. But if Trout stays healthy, they're going to be a lot easier to watch. They're going to get back Zach Neto, who quietly went 20-30 last year. He's 23, 24. He's a young star player, so he's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just rough sledding for the Angels. How do you have Trout and Ohtani in the same lineup for half a decade and not make the playoffs once? It's classic Angels. It's just it's what the team is all about ever since Artie Moreno bought. The only thing notable about the Angels so far for me, other than Trout being healthy to this point, is Kyron Paris. Are you familiar with Kyron Paris? So he's been a prospect for the Angels, and he hasn't played much. He still has rookie eligibility because he hasn't met the at bat threshold, but he's finally starting to figure it out. Small sample size, but he's hit like 150 in his first 2 years. This year he's 6 for 11 to start the year with a triple, a homer, a couple stolen bases, couple walks. He's only getting playing time because Zach Neto is currently on the IL, recovering from shoulder surgery. It'll be interesting to see if he's still hitting, what they do when Zach Neto comes back, because he's the type of guy who they want in the lineup right now.
Yeah, they'll probably put him in left field or something. And
yeah, imagine taking a star infielder and moving them to left field. That would be an incredibly stupid decision.
That would be audacious. Oh God, what do you think about?
Speaking of audacious,
yeah.
Well, I guess should we do the Mariners first, or should we talk about the Astros, since you've already kind of ripped them?
Yeah, let's talk about the Astros actually.
I think the downfall has begun.
Yeah.
They crushed the Twins on the Twins season opener on Thursday, but it's a different Astros team. No Kyle Tucker. Justin Verlander's gone. Framber Valdez is in a contract year. It feels like they're taking a step back this year. They're going to quote Vikings GM Kwesi, the competitive rebuild is kind of the vibes I'm getting from them.
Mm.
They move Altuve to left field, which makes no sense, so that they can put Brendan Rodgers at second base, failed prospect for the Rockies.
I didn't even realize that was the reason why they moved him.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
I think originally they moved him because they wanted Bregman back to play second base, but then they lost out on Bregman, and it's almost like they just were like, well, I guess we'll still go through with this anyway. And as you saw today, allowing the tying run to score in the game against the Twins, he looks lost out there. He doesn't look terrible all the time, but he does look lost when he needs to make a play.
Yeah.
Christian Walker was kind of off to a slow start. He had a big game on Thursday, but he's 34, so he's a guy who could very quickly fall off a cliff like Jose Abreu did.
Yeah.
Funny enough, in my notes, I had that Spencer Arrighetti looked good in his first start, and that aged very poorly because he got blown up today. His defense didn't give him a whole lot of help, but
No.
his big thing last year, he's elite strikeout potential, but he walks too many guys. And he controlled the walks in his first start, and he looked good against the Mets. And then he came out today and he just lost all control. He hit Buxton in that third, or I think it was the fourth inning. Yeah, hit Buxton in the fourth inning, and it was just all downhill after that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think 2026, 2027, we could see the Astros start to jump back up, but I think the dynasty is kind of done.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
They had their streak of ALCS appearances snapped last year, and it just seems like it's the twilight of that dynasty, which is fine. Parody's good. Parody's good for baseball.
It is.
The Dodgers, the league clearly didn't get the message with the Dodgers, but yeah, I think the Astros are just kind of done. It's probably a fourth place team, but it's going to be a competitive until the middle of August team, and then I think they probably just run out of juice because they're a Yordan Alvarez injury away from finishing under 500.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised if the trade deadline comes around and they're trading Framber Valdez.
I could see that.
Don't be surprised. The Mets need pitching. The Orioles need pitching. Everyone needs pitching. The Twins probably need pitching.
Yeah.
I don't want to watch Paddocks.
No one wants to watch Paddock. But speaking of pitching, what about the Mariners?
Mariners. Exactly what you'd expect. Elite pitching. They have 5 number ones. When you're rolling out, George Kirby's hurt right now, but he's a number one when he's healthy. Why am I blanking on names? But you're rolling out 5 number ones. These are all guys who, if you told me, oh yeah, they got Cy Young votes, I'm not going to be shocked.
Yeah.
The offense is the problem. They've been the problem for the last couple years. And there's well-documented cases right now that there's some weird wind tunnel, and there's also a terrible batter's eye in Seattle, which makes it impossible for hitters to hit.
Yeah.
So the offense is struggling. Julio Rodriguez isn't off to as slow a start as last year through a week. He's got a couple home runs. He's hitting 250. Cal Raleig's off to a slow start, but he got extended. He's going to hit 30 home runs. He's kind of your 3 true outcome player who plays elite defense behind the plate. I think they need to do something about the hitting. They need to make some type of move, that or Julio Rodriguez just needs to go absolutely nuclear, or I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I mean, okay, I got it pulled up here. So this starting rotation, when he's healthy, so you roll out George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Luis Castillo, Bryce Miller, and Brian Wu, who would, if you could have any one of those guys start game 1 of the playoffs, if you can make it to the playoffs, the Mariners are an incredibly dangerous team. because they do that. They go to the bullpen where they have a good bullpen. They have Andres Munoz, who's my favorite closer in baseball, mostly because he was my 40th round pick in a dynasty startup I did a couple years ago, and then he turned into an elite closer. So, just that close to the chest, close to the heart mentality.
Yeah.
But he's elite. He looks like Alexis Diaz during that ridiculous season. That's how he looks out there. He's got nasty stuff. He added a new pitch, which looks unhittable. But I don't think they're going to score enough runs to win. And it shows. So they're 3-5 to start the year, which is largely what is going to happen throughout the year. They're going to hover around 500, and then their August-September performance is largely going to determine whether or not they make the playoffs. So if Julio Rodriguez can just go nuclear in August and September like he has 2 of the last 3 years, you're in a good spot. But do you really feel comfortable relying on that? Because that was kind of their plan last year, and it never happened.
Yeah.
He went from unplayable to like a good player near the end of the year.
Yeah.
And it wasn't enough to get him over the hump. But you can't waste another year of this starting pitching.
No.
Like, Castillo's getting old. You're going to have to pay these guys. You're going to have to pay Gilbert. You're going to have to pay Kirby. I
don't think they like doling out too much money either. So
no, and those are guys who are going to walk when the payday ultimately comes.
Yeah.
The window is open, but it's quickly shutting. The Mariners need to do something this year, or I'm ready to throw away all my Mariners stock.
Oh God! Speaking of throwing things away, the Athletics, they finally got out of that dump. They're in a smaller stadium.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy? They finally get out of Oakland, and then their owner spends money for the first time ever. The largest contract in Mariners, or the largest contract in Athletics history, 3 years, $60 million for Luis Severino.
That's crazy.
That's your largest contract in franchise history.
God.
You're not even getting Giambi 2002 money.
No.
You'd think that contract could be beaten, but it still hasn't. Now, for me, I've kind of the Athletics. They're not great. They sneaky have a lot of good players. They have former Twins legend Brent Rooker, who was dumped by the Twins, the Padres, and the Royals for being unable to hit. Goes to Oakland and then somehow becomes a superstar in that dump.
Figured it out.
Yeah, I guess they rewarded him too. They extended him. They extended Lawrence Butler, who's kind of another guy who it took a couple cups of coffee for him to figure it out. But they're a fun and frisky 75 win team, and I've adopted them as my foster team. The Twins are still number one in my heart, but I'm liking the Athletics. They have my favorite prospect in baseball, Jacob Wilson, son of MLB or Jack Wilson. He had his first career home run. He also had another one yesterday. But he's a guy I like a lot. All he does is hit. He doesn't walk. He usually doesn't hit for power. He's not fast. He doesn't have elite defense. But man, that guy can hit singles with the best of them. He's a fun player. I actually bought his jersey. Nice. I've already watched more Athletics games this year than I've watched all of the previous 5 years.
Nice.
I watched all 3 of those games against the Cubs, which, the Cubs demolished them 3 straight games, and I've still come out of it being like, this is a fun team. I like this team. It's also changed my opinion on the Cubs a ton. Let's move over to the NL Central.
Okay.
So clearly, watching that A's series has changed my opinion on the Cubs, but after that first week, they're my new favorite to win the National League Central. Before, I was like, the Brewers are just going to derp their way to 90 wins and a first-round playoff exit like they always do, but the addition of Kyle Tucker in that lineup, they look like a completely different team. Seiya Suzuki's mashing. Tucker's amazing. He destroyed the Athletics. They kept pace with the Diamondbacks on the road in that first series. I've been impressed so far. And if they can just get semi-decent pitching, they're going to be a threat. They're right there with the Diamondbacks for my kind of borderline surprising number 4 team in the National League, because the National League's incredibly top heavy, but that 4th spot they're that 4 seed, that 4th best team. It's kind of up for grabs, and the Cubs are making a play at it right now.
Nice. What do you think the Cardinals can do going forward? They looked very good against the Twins, and
Yeah,
Arenado's like that guy again.
I don't know if I'd put too much stock in sweeping the lowly Twins to start the year, but
Yeah,
it's a team that they're going to live and die by their young players. Like Ivan Herrera, he's been a top catcher prospect for a couple years now. Not known as a power guy, comes out, hits 3 home runs the other day. He's taken really good at bats. Jordan Walker, who was another top prospect, but kind of flamed out the last couple of years. He's hitting 300 plus in his first week. He's drawing walks. He's taking good at bats. Lars Nootbaar, every at bat he took against the Twins was elite. Like, he looked great. We know he can work a count, but it's just the consistency and the staying healthy. On top of that, Arenado looks far closer to the 2023-2022 form than he does the 2024 form. Yeah. I fully expect it. I know you were big on an Arenado bounce back. I am too, but even I didn't think he'd look this good this early. The pitching is going to be the problem. Your number one, you got Sonny Gray, who's a fine B+ number 1, but then you drop down to Eric Fetty, who I like Eric Fetty. I thought he was a fun reclamation project when he kind of revived his career overseas, but he demolished the Twins. He looked terrible against the Red Sox yesterday. Just got absolutely ass blasted for 5 runs in the first inning. No swing and miss, no strikeouts. Probably not a 500 team, but if you told me they kind of were flirting with a wild card spot heading into September, I wouldn't be surprised.
So that's the Cardinals for you. What do you think about the Brewers?
Horrible. I haven't soured on any team more in the first week than the Brewers.
Yeah, they have,
and they're 4-4 right now, and they're gonna live and die off Churio, Contreras, and Peralta.
But I think you'll get.
They got demolished by the Yankees. They got demolished by the Royals in the opening game of that series. But Freddie Peralta shoved. Churio got a couple big hits. I think they're still probably a playoff team. I'd say I lean more towards a wild card right now. Yeah. But there's just a ceiling on what this team can do. Yeah. They're going to put a competitive team on the field all year long, but I don't think they are a serious contender. Not that anyone outside the Dodgers is necessarily, but yeah, there's a ceiling on what they can accomplish, and it's going to take a lot of drafting and developing, which they have a couple fun guys in the pipeline. But yeah, not a whole lot to talk about. There's a clear ceiling on what they can accomplish.
Did you see the video of the guy pissing on the concourse opening day?
No. There was drunk Brewer fan?
Yeah, there was a dude like dick out on the concourse just pissing after the game.
Well, wait, so this is Brewers opening day. This isn't in New York? Because if you told me it was happening in New York, it also wouldn't surprise me.
No, this was Brewers home opener.
Yeah. Well, it is Wisconsin, so.
Yeah. Drunkest 50 counties in the entire country. 40 of them are.
Hey, we love Wisconsin, but man, y'all know how to party, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, the bottom of the National League Central is when it starts to get ugly. The Reds are 2-6. I like the Reds.
Did you see how they lost a couple games in a row?
It was 1-0, right?
Like 3 games in a row, 1-0. And then then yesterday they were getting shut out going into the 7th. So
which is not, it shouldn't be a thing because they have good players. Yeah. Matt McClain, a couple years ago, 2023, he only played 90 games, but he was one of the best middle infielders in baseball for 90 games.
Yeah.
And he looks back, he's already hit 3 home runs. He looks good. Oh, Ellie's still a freak. He's still the only guy who has a chance to go 40, or other than Otani. He's the only non-Otani who, if you told me he went 40-40, I wouldn't be surprised by.
Oh,
I think it's
this year, but
Acuna.
generally.
He's stated he's going to tone back the stolen bases too. He wants to prioritize health. Now I don't know how much stock to put in that, but
Yeah.
you're right. Acuna can do it.
Did you see Ellie bunt in the 6th to try to break up a no-hitter?
Oh God, no, I didn't see that.
He got thrown out, but like, Jesus, buddy.
If there's
gonna throw at your head when you do that.
there's anybody who I would expect to do that, it does not surprise me that it's Ellie. He does not give two flying fucks, and that's part of the charm. That's part of what makes him marketable. He is this extreme high variance volatile player.
Yeah.
But he makes the game more fun to watch, and he probably makes the Reds more fun to watch.
Oh, definitely.
Terry Francona, he's the only manager that they could have added that I'd say, yeah, this is it's a 5-win better team by 5 wins. I think they're due for some positive regression. So I would imagine they are a much better team than last year and a better team than the 2-6 record shows right now.
Yeah.
But no, not a whole lot going right in Cincinnati. And that leads right into the Pirates, who stink. It's Skeens and a bunch of just slappies.
Yeah, O'Neill Cruz is kind of having some fun, but
he's finally starting to live up to his potential, live up to that high prospect billing. The freak athleticism, if he can stay healthy, he's a potential 30-30 guy.
Yeah.
Brian Reynolds, I should take that back. I should put some respect on Brian Reynolds' name because he's been quietly one of the most consistent players in the National League over the last half decade. But it's those two, it's Skeens, and it's not a whole lot else. I haven't seen. So the Marlins walked off the Pirates 3 straight games, I believe. And part of that was their closer, David Bednar, who just forgot how to pitch last year. He sucked so bad.
He those games.
Yeah, he lost. He almost single-handedly lost all 3 games for them. So they demoted him to the minors. He's probably done with the Pirates, if I had to imagine. Really? Walk-off wild pitch.
Oh, God. Hate to see that.
It's like triple or double and a stolen base. He let the runner get to third, walk-off wild pitch.
Yeah, that's not as good as a walk-off balk, but it's pretty damn close.
Yeah, he's rough, and that's a guy who I was kind of high on coming into the year because he was a fantasy closer who was basically a free player. And so in rotisserie formats, if you can lock down that save category, you're doing well. So I have a good amount of shares of Bednar, and now it's basically a draft pick that I just lit on fire. But Skeens is going to don't sign an extension, buddy. He's going to want out of there real fast.
Yeah, every once in a while you see a Photoshop of him in like a Yankees jersey, and it's like, fuck off. You guys get
he would be an awesome Yankee, though. Tell me he wouldn't be an awesome Yankee.
Yeah, he's already got the stash.
He feels like a Yankee to me. A Yankee or a Red Sox. Like he just feels like he belongs on one of those teams. He needs to be pitching in October, and he needs to be in a big market.
Yeah. Does indeed.
Not LA. I swear, if he just because I said it, he's going to end up on the Dodgers, but we can't have him on the Dodgers.
No, that would be terrible.
But they'll give him $500 million, and they'll defer half of the money to 2050, and
they'll give Livy
moving on.
Million.
Which my hot take, Livy Dunn.
God.
Like she's cute.
Okay. Oh God.
I heard someone say that she's the next generation's Megan Fox, and I'm like, okay, cool it, guys.
Cool it, guys.
You gotta calm down. There's only one Megan Fox.
I can't even picture Megan Fox off the top of my head, if I'm being honest.
You didn't watch Transformers? You weren't a Transformers fan?
I'm not a movie guy.
To be honest, I wasn't either. I've never seen a single one of those movies all the way through.
Okay. Makes me feel a little better. Um,
You can cut all of this. You can cut
yeah,
it off.
we'll probably leave it. Um, well, since Pittsburgh's inexplicably in the Central, even though they're the Eastern team, let's stick with the NL East. Let's get over there. What do we?
How about the Marlins, huh? How are they 4-4 other than David Bednar existing? If the Pirates didn't exist, the Marlins are probably or they're 1-7
Yeah.
at the very least.
Imagine if they were 1-7, though. You're just looking at this division with the Braves and the Marlins sitting at 1-7.
You're like, yeah, there's two teams or there's a team. If you'd told me before the season that there's a team in the East that's 1-7, I'd say it's the Marlins.
Yeah,
It's clearly the Marlins, and then you're like, no, it's the Braves, and I'm like, excuse me, what?
that's
Uh,
baseball for you, right
the
there.
only the only two things of note that I have with the Marlins is Sandy's back. He looks good. The control's a little wild, which isn't uncommon when you're coming back from Tommy John, but
Yeah,
other than that, he looks like the Cy Young version. So he's going to be traded soon. It's just going to be which team wants to offer up the best prospects back.
yeah.
Otto Lopez, my guy, Otto Lopez, quietly hitting 300 with a couple home runs, getting some clutch hits in the first week.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a Ben Revere type. He's a
He's
speed
quick.
guy, and he doesn't hit for power or average, but he's doing the thing. He's been a bright spot on an otherwise unremarkable offense.
Is he using a torpedo bat?
I do not know. I can confidently say I've only watched one Otto Lopez at bat, and it was because he hit a home run.
There you go.
I'm solely looking at the stat sheet and what people are telling me.
Nice.
But he was a name when I just keep seeing home runs and a bunch of hits on his box score. I'm like, okay, Otto, I see you.
Yep.
Put a little star by your name and a couple of my fantasy teams in case I need a second baseman. Now from the bottom of the division to the top, Phillies 6-1, just nice, slow and steady. They are the least talked about juggernaut in baseball right now, just because the Dodgers exist. But
Yeah.
if there was one team that I think could take down the Dodgers, it has to be either the Padres or the Phillies.
Yeah.
They just have all stars everywhere. The only difference with the Padres is the Phillies are kind of reaching the end of their window. They have a lot of older guys. Like it
Yeah.
could be Schwarber's last year in Philly. Uh,
Yeah.
Trey Turner's 32. I know he's going to be there for a decade, but he's reaching that age where they're going to have to move him off shortstop, and the decline could come. He's also struggled to stay healthy. Harper's in his early 30s. Castellanos, there can only be so many national tragedies to get that guy going,
I know.
and
He hit a home
he's
run and no one died. Like that's kind of crazy.
that's kind of the craziest thing of all. Just going through the fact that he can perform when no one dies. It's just he's old too. He's a terrible defender and he's old. So there's only so much time left with him. Zach Wheeler's 34. He's now pitching. It's been established these guys can pitch into their late 30s and they can do just fine.
Yeah.
But you always know he's one pitch away from grabbing that elbow, and all of a sudden you feel completely different about that team. I
Definitely.
think so. If I'm the Phillies, so if you put, say, the four teams that could take down the Dodgers: Phillies, Padres, Cubs, and Diamondbacks. Of those four teams,
It's
um,
Bills.
three. Yeah, it's the Phillies for me. But if three of those teams lose to the Dodgers in the NLCS, you're kind of sitting there thinking, okay, we had a good year. We went toe to toe. Say they lose in, say they take it to 7 games even. It's you're feeling good. You win up against the best team. If the Phillies lose in the playoffs this year, if the Phillies don't win the World Series, you're starting to feel the biological clock ticking.
Yeah,
They
definitely.
only, and this was a point I was someone brought it up. I think it was on Wake and Jake I was watching. It was just like if the Phillies don't make the World Series, or
Mhm.
God forbid they don't even make the NLCS, it's gonna be panic time in Philly because they
Yeah,
got a lot of money tied down on aging players, and this thing could go south real fast. So
def-
the sense of urgency has to be real in Philadelphia. But another team, which you're kind of starting to feel a sense of urgency, is the Mets.
yeah.
You know, you've been higher on the Mets than me, and mainly for me, it's just the pitching is suspect as hell.
I thought the
That's
Mets
another
were going to
team.
be. I thought the Mets were going to be meh this year.
Oh,
I
really?
Yeah,
It's the pitching. Your number one starter. It's they were converting Clay Holmes from
yeah,
closer to starter,
yeah. That was
and
actually,
I get that everyone wants to do that because Michael King did it and did pretty well last year. He was an ace,
yeah.
but for every one of those guys, for every Michael King, for every Ronaldo Lopez, there's a guy who just can't do it, who just completely flames out. There's more than I can count, and they need to trade. That's another team. Them and the Orioles, the Mets and the Orioles need to be trying to outbid each other for Sandy because both of those teams need an arm and they need it now. I don't see how the Mets can take this rotation and go up against the other powerhouses in the NL and think they're going to get anything done.
No, they're going to be praying that the bats come alive in
Oh
any
yeah,
series. Like that's their only saving grace. Is the middle of the lineup is disgusting.
yeah. Alonso, and he's kind of a hot and cold hitter too, but he's mashing to start the year.
Yeah.
Soto looks good in the blue and orange. He looks like a Met. I feel good about that.
Hmm.
Um, you know who he is. You know he's going to hit 30 home runs with a 400 on base percentage. And at some point here, they're probably going to move him to DH because he's just not a great
He's bad.
defender.
He's really bad.
Either yeah, he can either take over first base if Alonso leaves or go to DH because he's not doing you any favors in the outfield.
No.
But Lindor is off to a slow start again. That's another guy who doesn't scare me just because he seems to get off to a slow start every year.
Yeah, he'll figure it
Uh,
out.
yeah, he's the one guy who I don't fear at all, or I don't fear his slow start at all. I fear him as an opposing team quite a bit. Um, yeah, they seem like a very clear number two team in this division right now.
Yeah,
It's
I agree with that.
very clear number two. Um, if the Braves didn't get off to such a terrible start, I'd put the Braves above them. But here we are, and
They have so
yeah,
much up the Braves. Like,
yeah. Well, it's just that it's not only are you trying to dig yourself out of a hole, but you're getting lapped by the Mets.
yeah,
You're the Marlins. The Marlins are ahead of you right now, which can't feel good. If the Nationals could figure some stuff out,
yeah,
which I mean, why don't we move on to them? It's been a pretty disappointing start for them as well, but they're not a team that had playoff aspirations.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that's a team, and I don't know how. Just the Nationals, they're not a particularly over talked about team, but they're going to live and die by their young players. Um, but James Wood is off to a slow start. C.J. Abrams is really the only guy in that lineup who's doing the thing.
Yeah.
Dylan Cruz just a terrible start. I didn't particularly care for him coming out of college. It was
Mm,
kind of he was in the Skeens class, whereas Skeens was clearly like he was Justin Verlander 2.0. That was the guy. But
yeah.
among the position players, it was him and Wyatt Langford were the two college ready guys, and then Walker Jenkins and Max Clark. Those were your top high school level players.
Hmm.
And between Cruz and Langford, I think a lot of people agreed that they said Cruz had this, or scouts thought Cruz had this advanced hitting profile, but just the eye test, Langford was the guy. There was more power, there was more raw athleticism, there was more tools to work with,
Yeah.
and it's clear to this point. I think Dylan Cruz. I'm not ready to fully sound the alarm on Dylan Cruz, but I think he's trending far more towards being an average MLB player, an average to above, like a 3-WAR corner outfielder,
Yeah.
which is good. That's a good player, but it's not the number 2 overall pick good. Whereas if you told me in a year or so, Langford is finishing with like 7.5 WAR in a corner outfield spot, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
You have to start worrying about these guys when they look as overmatched as Dylan Cruz does right now. And he's a guy who they were going to rely on if this team wanted to do anything and be ahead of schedule. Because they're a team, they're going to start looking to compete 2026 at the earliest, probably 2027, 2028. And yeah, it's just nothing to write home about. They don't have the talent to keep up with these other teams. They don't have the pitching.
No.
This is a year where you want to see what your young guys can do. You want to see if James Wood can put it together for an entire year.
Yeah.
The only pitcher they have, great opening day, great start. Mackenzie Gore, but
yeah.
he walks too many guys. You can't be an ace if you have a 1.4 whip. And he needs to prove this year. If he wants to prove he's anything other than a number 3, he needs to get the control. He needs to get his control taken care of. He needs to walk less guys. Not a whole lot else to say about the Nationals. Do you have anything to add there? I know they're kind of a boring team to talk about.
They got a sick ballpark.
It is a nice ballpark.
Yeah.
It's one of the only nice things in DC.
Yeah.
I know they have a lot of museums, but
they do. Well, let's go talk about the NL West.
Final division.
Yeah, right. Final division, 4 more teams.
We've already talked about the Padres a little bit in that they're one of those teams that can take down the Dodgers. But even I've been pleasantly surprised. Like they dropped the last 2 to the Cubs, which the Cubs might just be a really good team. You're not going to go 162-0. But they look good. The starting pitching has been a little hit or miss so far, but I don't doubt that Michael King's going to get there. I really like Nick Pivetta. Yu Darvish is coming back at some point. Like they're going to get it figured out. I'm sure they will try to make a trade if they're coming down the stretch and they're right there with the Dodgers. But Tatis, he looks like a great leadoff hitter. I didn't realize how fast that guy was, but he's raking, he's stealing bases. You think he's roided up again?
No, I thought that was just a funny note, though.
once a roid guy, always a roid guy.
Yeah, for real. It's tough to dodge that once you do it. Like
it's tough to shake. Like you want to give these guys the benefit of the doubt. Was he just trying to recover quicker from a motorcycle injury, or was he juicing the whole time? Because he hasn't even come close to being the 40 homer guy.
No,
since then, and he doesn't look like that type of player.
That was also the juice ball year, though.
I thought that was post juice ball.
Oh, well.
I think it was post juice. I think it was like the dead ball year in 2021. I could be wrong. He might have done it during the juice ball. I think he did it during the juice ball year too. But most underrated up and coming superstar, or maybe he's not underrated anymore. A guy I loved last year, so I got him in a bunch of dynasty leagues in the rookie drafts. Jackson Merrill, and that's paying dividends right now. He's hitting 400 through the first week. He signs a 9-year extension, which I kind of like these extensions because these are the years that you're supposed to get this affordable player, and so teams are like, all right, well, we'll give you a 9-year, $135 million extension. So you're making good money, but the team also gets a cost-effective superstar for a decade. And then once you get to 30, you're going to sign another decade-long contract, and you're going to make $500 million if you can stay healthy. That contract can go up to $200 million in incentives. He's fun to watch. He's 22 years old. He plays Gold Glove center field. He rakes. He steals bases. There's not a whole lot to dislike.
Yeah, kind of does everything for you.
Absolutely. But other than those two, it's a steady lineup. Luis Arias, he's off to a slow start, but he's going to hit 315, 320. He's going to be right there for the batting title at the end of the year. He's your perfect number 2 hitter. Yeah. Cronenworth, nice and steady. Machado, he's still doing the thing. Machado, 4 stolen bases. He had 11 last year. Machado, 30-30.
Someone
We'll
might
see.
need to someone might need to look at his bank account and see if he gave money to someone to bet on the over for his stolen base. That's a little
It
fast.
it could be. It could be. Yeah, I like the Padres. I think that's other than I think the Phillies are my favorite team to take down the Dodgers, but divisional opponents get weird. So the
Yeah.
Padres are right there for me. It's like if the Phillies are up here, the Padres are right here. It's neck and neck. And then our next team is just a little bit below that. That's going to be the Diamondbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Um, right there with the Cubs, I had them as a sneaky number 4. They went out and got Corbin Burns. He's probably the most proven ace over the last couple of years in baseball. But they've kind of quietly shown they're willing to go out and spend a little money here.
Yeah.
Um, they
That's
extend Ketel Marte, and then right after they extend him, he goes down with a hamstring injury, which is a big loss for them because a lot of people forget that up until he got hurt during their stretch run at the end of last year, in terms of WAR, he was pacing with Ohtani WAR wise, and then he got hurt, and Ohtani just pulled away and easily won it. He was going to win it anyway because he was having the better year. But
yeah.
Marte, 37 homers last year in not a full season, so he's
Jesus.
doing the thing.
Yeah.
And if they're without him for an extended period of time, your entire outlook on that team is different.
Yeah, they just need to go 500 if he's out for a while. Like
Yeah. Now,
maintain a 1-to-1 ratio and hope for the best when he comes back.
the good news is my favorite prospect this year, Jordan Lawler. He's at AAA. He's just sitting there on ice. They're waiting to call him up. If
Mm-hmm.
I had to guess, within the next week or so, I think we're going to see Jordan Lawler come up and get his. He got a cup of coffee 2 years ago, and he was just hurt all of last year. But this is a guy who his prospect pedigree. They had him close to Bobby Witt in terms of what he can do with a power speed profile. So
Yeah.
I would imagine they slot him in there at second base, and they just see what he can do. And you got nothing to lose. They could go to the bench and they could just put some Slappy there at second, but if I were them, this is the perfect opportunity. Sometimes when guys, as we know as a Twins fan, sometimes a guy getting hurt can be a blessing in disguise because you get to see what you have with one of the young guys,
Yeah.
and then maybe you make it a champagne problem when Ketel Marte comes back if Lawler's raking and he's hitting homers, stealing bases, and you're like, okay, well, we're just going to move you to shortstop then, Lawler, which is his primary position, and then we're going to put Perdomo in kind of a platoon bench role, which is where he's best suited to be anyway. Yeah, really good sneaky team with the Diamondbacks. I think if you told me the Diamondbacks are back in the World Series, like I wouldn't be surprised. I put them as one of the 4 teams that can take down the Dodgers.
Yeah. I like them a lot. They're very fun in the playoffs. Like when that barn gets rocking, I think they can hold like
Mm-hmm.
54,000 people.
They got the hot tub in right field.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. You know, I'm gonna do a really early victory lap on the Giants because
Hey, let Buster Posey cook.
yeah,
The Buster Posey Giants. It's completely. It feels different.
yeah,
Uh, they look good.
mm-hmm.
It's the first week, 6-1. There's a very good chance that next in 2 weeks from now or start of May, we're like, wow, what happened to that team? But they look good. Verlander, he's still doing it.
Yeah,
Short start. I didn't check to see if he was hurt or not, but just the fact that he's out there still is kind of surprising to me. It's fun to see too, as a guy who's just like, when we were in elementary school, that guy was an ace, and now we're in or we're
cool.
entering our mid 20s, and he's still out there as
Yeah,
somewhat of an ace.
yeah.
Um,
It's crazy.
okay, he was just chased. The Mariners just they chased him in the third, so
Oh,
he kind
yeah.
of got rocked.
The
But
Mariners hitting.
yeah, well, they weren't in Seattle, so
Okay.
that's why they're able to hit on the road. I was like looking at the OPS splits um for Julio
Mhm.
um and some of the other guys, and it's just crazy home and away. It's like almost 200 points of difference.
Crazy.
But yeah, they are a fun team right now. Elliot Ramos, 6 straight games with an extra base hit. He's he was a guy. He's another guy. He's a prospect. It just took him a little longer to figure it out,
Yeah.
and he looks like he's an everyday all-star caliber player. He should be hitting in the middle of that lineup, and if he can just put up similar numbers to last year, that's a good team.
Yeah.
They went out and signed Willie Adames, and he hasn't really done anything yet. I didn't like that signing at the time because if you're analyzing a player, you kind of want to throw away their best season and their worst season and to see who they are. And
Yeah.
last year was far and away his best season in the majors. Like
Mhm.
before last year, his high in stolen bases, I think, was 5 or 6, and then he steals 21 last year. And
Yeah.
he's shown that he can be a 30 home run guy, but the last couple of years he hasn't touched 25. And then he goes out and goes 30-20, and his batting average is 30, 40 points higher than it's been. Now he goes from Miller Park, which is as hitter friendly as it gets, um, to the Giants. And I mean, that cavernous park, I don't think it makes sense to pay him as a superstar, but if you're the Giants and you're trying to keep pace with these other teams, I get why you do it.
Yeah.
They they could be legit. Like I trust Buster Posey running baseball operations more than I trust whoever else was doing it before.
Yeah.
Um, it's not like football where you get John Elway in there and he just runs the Broncos into the ground. Sometimes these baseball guys just know what they're doing. You look at Craig Counsell. I mean, that's managing, but
Yeah.
some guys just get it, and it seems like Buster Posey gets it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, even if you don't think you're ready to compete, you need to go out and spend money on guys who either will keep the fans engaged, kind of help get your core together, or if you believe that you're going to be a contender 3-4 years out, sign a guy to a 5-year deal who you see as being part of that. And that's a big thing that the Rangers did before they won the World Series, when a lot of people didn't think it made sense to go out and sign Corey Seager at the time they did, or Jacob deGrom. Or a couple of the pitchers they signed, like Gray and Evaldi. But they essentially analyzed their team. They're like, we want to compete this year, and we're going to sign Corey Seager and DeGrom to contracts so that they're on the team when our core gets there. And it worked for them. So maybe that's what they're doing with Adames.
Yeah.
You can take that well-earned victory lap because they look like a good team. They don't look like an 81-81 team. They look like they could finish 85-90 wins. They
Mhm.
probably still aren't a playoff team because the National League is stacked, but yeah,
Yeah.
I like what they got cooking. So yeah, like I said, let Buster Posey cook.
Do you like what the Rockies have cooking right now?
I do not. I do not like what the Rockies have cooking.
Why not?
Funny enough, I actually like a lot of their players.
Yeah.
Um, they're going to lose 100 plus games. This roster is just terrible. They need to get the young guys up to play. Like I love Jordan Beck. I got him on a bunch of dynasty teams. He's a power speed guy. I'm sure you've never heard of him, but
Correct.
he's a fun player. Hunter Goodman, who is one of the better hitting catchers in the minor leagues the last couple of years, and they
Yeah.
moved him to the outfield.
Oh,
Or they're trying to move him to the outfield.
that's interesting because it's such a big outfield.
Yeah, but he's hitting to start the year. Like he's a fun player.
Yeah.
He's a guy who they need to get everyday playing time. Um, my guess is he still has some catcher versatility, but
Yeah.
he's full time. They're going to want to make him an outfielder.
Yeah.
And so he's still catching some games right now. But they got one of the best pitching prospects in baseball, Chase Dollander, who's actually going to be debuting tomorrow. And the
Okay.
funny thing is, he would be right up there with the likes of Andrew Painter, with Paul Skeen, below Paul Skeens last year, with the guy that the Tigers have, whose name I'm blanking on right now. Oh, Jackson Jobe. He would be right up there with those guys as a top 10 prospect if he didn't pitch in Colorado. Like if he
Yeah.
got traded tomorrow, so if he got traded to even the Reds, say he got traded to the Reds, where it's still a very hitter friendly ballpark,
Yeah.
he'd be a top 10 prospect, and we would be really excited about this guy. But because he's in Colorado, we just fully expect him to suck. And we're like, well, maybe he'll get traded. Maybe the Rockies will package him with someone else. I'm excited to see how he does. If he can kind of go Ubaldo Jimenez and have a Cy Young type year in Coors, that would be pretty exciting. But there's not a whole lot going right in Colorado. They draft Charlie Condon last year, who's at one time people are like, oh, who's the first overall pick? Is it Condon or is it Bazana? And then not only does he just suck miserably in his first taste of A-ball, but I think he broke his hand, so he's not even playing right now.
God damn it.
So it's going to be multiple years before we see him. Not a whole lot to like if you're a Rockies fan, but maybe some of these young guys get called up. Maybe Adele Amador gets called up again. They called him up straight from Double-A last year.
I'm sure that will.
It didn't go well, but maybe he gets back up. He could be a fun player.
Yeah.
They're going to lose 100+ games. It's going to be them and the Marlins competing for the worst record in baseball.
Not the Sox?
Oh, and the Sox. I should have said the worst record in the NL. I think the Sox are still probably the worst record in baseball.
Okay.
Unless they get some of these young guys up, they got some fun prospects.
With that, I think that's a wrap on the first weekly rundown of the MLB, the first video in Carl's Corner. I would love to thank everyone for joining us on this journey. We'll be doing this. We're going to move this to Sunday every week, so we're actually wrapping up a regular week.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thank you for following along today, and be sure to like and subscribe.